The first question that we have is from Flyback. He's asking about the Orion. It is a device that we have from REI. It's a nonlinear junction detector. And I will bring up a picture here of the Orion for you, just so you can see what I'm talking about. This is the Orion. It's a nonlinear junction detector, as I said, from REI. What a nonlinear junction detector does is it is looking for any kind of a piece of electronic that is on or off, that is transmitting or not transmitting, recording or not recording. It doesn't really matter. It's able to detect most pieces of electronic devices. So that probably answers that question. It does not have to be operating for the Orion to be able to identify it. And this page gives you a little bit about the technology there. It works on reflective. It's sending out, it's actually broadcasting a radio signal, and it's looking on the second and the third harmonic. And doing that, it's trying to detect whether there's pieces of metal. It can get regular metal, or it can get electronics such as semiconductors and different things like that. One of the problems with the Orion is the speed that you have to work with. With the Orion, you're literally working with that round cylindrical area is about this big, and it's pretty heavy, the whole device, and you have to scan very, very slowly on every surface. So like what I usually tell people, if I was going to go in with the Orion and do the average house with 2 technicians, it's going to take an entire week for us to cover every surface. For every surface, I'm meaning every wall, every ceiling, every floor, all the pieces of furniture, things like that. So if we're going to be going through and looking at all of those different devices, then of course, looking at all those different areas for devices, it's going to take us a very, very long time. So to answer the question for Flyback, does it need to be active? No. The Orion or any nonlinear junction detector will detect most pieces of electronics, whether they're on or off, working or not working, transmitting or not transmitting. But there are some huge downsides to using it, and time is one of those things. So we don't use it in all of our sweeps. We generally have it with us in case we need it. So if there is an area that looks suspicious, we can try to check and see if there's anything in there, but it can give false positives as well. So we have to be very careful about those false positives so we don't have clients tearing into walls and floors and things like that when there's nothing there. So we have to use it in conjunction with a lot of other things, inspection cameras and FLIRs and things like that. Going on to our next question here from David. He asks, what camera do you use? And I'm going to go back to the internet here really quick for you. And if you go to my website, freeprivateinvestigatortraining.com, that's freeprivateinvestigatortraining.com, and you go up here to the PI gear page, you can go here and there's all kinds of sections on surveillance equipment, bug detectors, the PI retainer calculator if you want to take a look at that, covert cameras, things like that. But what he's asking is what camera I generally use for surveillance, and that's going to be the Panasonic HCV 180. That's what I use. And it's a really, really good camera. It shoots 50x optical zoom, which is absolutely amazing zoom. Most digital cameras are going to be around 20 or 30x optical zoom. This is 50x. It also has that 90x intelligent zoom. So it uses a little bit, just a little bit of artificial zoom on there along with the optical zoom, a little bit of digital zoom in there, but not much. You usually don't want to use any digital zoom, but that intelligent zoom is really good, and it's got great stabilization, and it shoots at 1080p. And shooting at that 1080p is plenty enough for most surveillance jobs out there. A lot of people will go to the 4K cameras. I think the 4K cameras, they got great video, but there's a lot of problems with that. One is the size of your video that you send to your client. It is huge. It's going to take forever to upload it. It's going to take them forever to download it. It takes a lot of space. And a lot of times when you're putting it out there on shared systems where you're sharing a file with somebody, it's going to get dumbed down anyway from 4K to 1080p. So you're better off just shooting it in 1080p. And 1080p is going to give you everything that you need out of your surveillance camera. So I hope that helps, David. The next question I have here, and welcome everybody. I see people jumping back in. I'm sorry for the technical issues that I had earlier, but I believe I've got it all fixed. So we're going to continue on here. King of Principles asks, how do we circumvent these tactics if we know we are being targeted illegally? And what he is talking about is surveillance. If somebody is surveilling you, how do you circumvent it if you know you're being targeted illegally? Well, first, if it's illegal, it's illegal. I say contact the police, contact an attorney, somebody like that, because illegal is illegal. But if you're just wanting to know how to circumvent surveillance, and I get a lot of flack for this because I do teach some things about counter surveillance measures and stuff like that, but that's okay. I'm willing to give any advice that I can out there. If you go over here to my YouTube channel and you go to videos, you'll look for this video right here. OMG, is someone following me? This is on counter surveillance tricks that everyone should know. And I put this one out about a year ago. There was another one I had a couple of years ago. If you're looking for counter surveillance measures, if you believe somebody's surveilling you, then check out this video. And again, like I said, I get a lot of flack sometimes from other PIs. Oh my gosh, you're giving away our secrets and stuff like that. Trust me, there's no really big secrets in there about surveillance and stuff like that. It's all out there already. And for you PIs, this is a good video for you to watch too, because you need to know what your surveillant may be doing in counter surveillance measures as far as trying to get rid of you, shake you, things like that. Their attorneys will be telling them about it. From my experience, everyone I've ever surveilled has had an attorney, and their attorney is probably going to be telling them all the things that I tell you and more about how you can get around the surveillance, how you can get rid of the person that's tailing you, things like that. So I hope that helps. And again, if it's illegal surveillance, I'm not an attorney. I can't give you legal advice, but if it's illegal surveillance, then call the police, call 911, contact an attorney, get legal advice from that standpoint. Our next question is from Joe. He says, I recently got burned for the first time and it was pretty intense. I got chased, followed by a family member of my subject, but managed to get away unharmed. I'm getting somewhat paranoid and worried that they are going to use my license plate to get my address. What can I do to sleep better at night? Joe, first of all, I'm sorry that you got burned. It happens, unfortunately, and I know that doesn't help. But I'll tell you a little bit of a story that happened to me many years ago. I was on a surveillance way out on the Eastern Plains in a little bitty town, and it was several hours from where I live, 3 or 4 hours, and I had to go there and get a hotel room, so I do some surveillance, and then go to the hotel room at night, get up the next day, and go do some surveillance. Short story, the guy that I was looking for ended up not being there. I was able to determine that after a couple of days. This was before the days of a lot of like smartphones and things like that. So I didn't have a lot of ability to be able to, check things on my phone. I was in a little bitty town. I barely had a cell phone signal. When I got done, though, I was able to determine that my subject had not lived there. He had actually sold his house. There was an elderly couple that had just purchased it. I was able to do a locate on him, and I got hold of the clients, and I let them know that I found him. The problem was I found him just about a half a mile, if that, from my house, which is kind of weird and kind of scary. But I did go out and I did do the surveillance for them. I normally would not work anything that close to my house. I don't anymore for sure, but I was a little reluctant, but I thought I could do it. And I went out and I got my 2 days of surveillance and I got great video and I did the follow fine. And then they sent it back to me and I did some more surveillance and then they sent it back again. Short story, I did about 9-10 days of surveillance in about a 3-week period of time, and then I got burned. Now, again, this guy lives not too far away from me. So we could potentially cross paths just exiting our neighborhoods. Normally he went another way, so I wasn't extremely worried, but I was a little bit worried because when he burned me, he pulled into a little parking lot. I went past, I went down the street almost a mile, pulled off, just kept watching for him and kept watching for him, waited about 10 or 15 minutes, never saw him, thought I better go back. I go back, he's standing outside with a camera waiting for me, taking pictures as I drive by, and then he hops into his vehicle and he gets behind me and he is now doing surveillance on me. So I tried to stay as calm as I could. I head out of town. I drive about 15, 20 miles out of town, and he eventually turns around and he goes back. But I was totally burned. He saw my license plate. He lives in the same neighborhood as me, and I was extremely paranoid. I parked in my garage for months, making sure that the garage door was closed. I was wondering, should I change my license plates? What should I do? But nothing ever became of that. I never saw him again. We never crossed paths. He eventually did move again a few years later. One of the things with all of that, though, I do understand when they follow you intensely, it can get kind of scary. And Joe is from New York State. And in New York State, it is a public record now to be able to go and get somebody's license plate information, which is kind of really bizarre in any situation. In Colorado, you can go to DMV and request that, but you have to be like a licensed private investigator or law enforcement, or there's only certain people that can do that. And I would be a little worried too, but probably like you had said in your email, and this was a very lengthy email, like your boss said, the best thing you could do is if they show up, call the police. But I have security cameras all the way around my house. I'm sitting in my office. I can look over at my cameras and I can see every angle. I can see everybody outside of the office. So I have that. I would say put up some security cameras. And if anybody does show up, if you do get worried, call 911. You might want to do some counter surveillance when you're out doing stuff. See if anybody's following you and watch that video that I had showed earlier. So I hope that helps, Joe. Going on to our next question. This is from Travis. The reason I am emailing you is to ask if you think that it's possible for me to start up with my lack of experience. Travis doesn't have any prior investigative experience. He is younger by my standards. If I remember right, he was in his mid-30s, and he's thinking about getting in the PI world. Travis is also in Texas, I believe. So I'm going to hop back over to the internet here really quick. And Travis, what I would suggest is you check out this organization right here. It's called it's called Texas Association of Licensed Investigators, or TALI. Their website is tali.org. This is a state association for private investigators. They have lots of different training and different things like that you can get involved in. You can also get involved with their listserv. And I am a member of TALI. I'm also a member of FALI, the Florida Association of Licensed Investigators, CALI, the California Association of Licensed Investigators, and the PPIAC, Professional Private Investigators Association of Colorado. And I do believe there's a lot of value in being involved in these state associations because of things like training, continuing education, networking, and getting jobs. And I know TALI has a very, very active listserv. I see dozens of jobs every day getting posted up there, so it's very good to be on there. And if you're inexperienced, then going to your state association and getting the training that you need is very important. I always suggest that. And speaking of training, I'm going to put in a quick shameless plug here for the Professional Private Investigators Association. We have our 2023 Rocky Mountain Investigators Conference coming up in just like 49 days in September, and it has all kinds of great things going on. We have 3 days of training for private investigators. So I thought I would show this to you and share with you some of the stuff that we have going on. And you don't have to be in Colorado to take this course. I mean, you have to come here to take it, but you don't have to live here. You don't have to be a PI here. Any PI can come in and take the courses. We have Sandra Stibbridge coming in for an entire full day of open source intelligence training. This is excellent training. It is interactive. It's hands-on. You'll want to bring your laptop. She's going to walk you through open source intelligence or OSINT investigations. We also have on Friday and Saturday, as you will see, all of these speakers here. We have fraud investigations, emerging InfoSec threats, due diligence, cell phone forensics, claims and missteps PIs should be aware of, catastrophic airsoft and force-on-force injury investigations. We have the senior investigative reporter for the Denver Gazette that's going to be presenting with us. We have Vic Moss coming in telling us all about drones, accident investigations, creating partnerships between public and private sectors, and then the Laboratory to Combat Human Trafficking. And last but not least, and he's actually not last but not least, I believe he's one of the first speakers, is J.P. Moore from the Colorado Bar Association on ethics. We will have a lot of CLEs, continuing legal education credits as well. We're just applying for them. I'm just going to take a wild guess and say we're probably going to be around 10 to 20 CLEs for this class, I would imagine. It's going to be great. So, ppiac.org. If you're interested, go to ppiac.org and you can get all the information. You can get registered, and we have discount hotel rooms and stuff like that. We have one more week of early bird registrations. So if you're interested, you'll want to get in on that. We'll still be taking registrations after that, but the discounts for the early bird registration will end in a week. And that's all the questions that I had in my mailbox. So I'm going to go to the live questions here. What's the best way to clean up audio recordings? Well, let me, this is from Michael Picker. Michael, I'll first caution you about ever editing anything to make it clear, whether it's audio or video or anything like that, if it's evidentiary. If you are not an expert in that field, I highly caution people to not do it. If you're just trying to clean it up to be able to hear it better yourself, then use a program like Audacity. That's what I use. It's free. You can use something like that. There's all kinds of filters that you can apply and things like that. But if it's evidentiary, you're going to want to get somebody in the computer forensics world to be able to help you out, and probably an audio engineer as well, to make sure that you are able to keep that as an evidentiary piece of evidence. Otherwise, you're not a sound engineer. If you edit it, it's just like video. That's why you don't want to use digital zoom on video, because it's digitally altered. You never want to alter a lot of things like that, or it could really compromise your evidence. Mulatto Vanguard says, I'm in the same position. I'm in my mid-30s looking to get into the PI field. Again, Mulatto, get with your state association. Just go to Google, search your state, in Colorado, Private Investigator Association. You're going to see PPIAC come right up there, and get with them. And I see Michael Picker also asked if there's anything like that in Philadelphia. Michael, again, I'm sure there is in Philadelphia. I would just search Philadelphia Private Investigator Association and see what you come up with there. There's also NCISS, the National Council for Investigation and Security Specialists. I'm a member of that as well. That's a national one. There's WAD, the World Association of Detectives. That's an international one. There's ASIS. I'm a member of ASIS International and ASIS Northern Colorado and Southern Wyoming. That's an association of security and investigation specialists. So there's a lot of different ones out there. But that's going to pretty much end all of the questions that I see.